Am I on now? Okay. Okay, one more time. I didn't realize I wasn't on, but the folks live here heard me. Shabbat Shalom. Happy great Yom Teruah, Feast of Trumpets. And today's message, today's presentation is actually going to be quite a bit different. It will be fitting for today, but it's going to be a bit different than what we've heard. I don't proclaim to be a prophet. I do not proclaim to be offering anything earth-shattering, so to speak. But let's begin with a couple verses regarding this day. And let us open up, please, to Leviticus 23. We're going to read a few verses about this from Torah. It wouldn't be befitting if we didn't. Can I have a fan on up here? A brave volunteer, please. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa.
High, medium, or low?
High, please. Yeah, right there is good enough. Thank you. And let's pick it up in verse 23. Because this day does, in fact, have a great commemoration to it. But this time I'm going to offer something. I'm going to offer something a bit different. Because I think in light of what's going on, it's actually quite. I hope it's fitting. Then Yahweh, Leviticus 23:23. Then Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, Now speak to the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath rest, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and a holy convocation. Nor shall you do any customary work on it, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. Let's see what Numbers 29 has to say about this. Numbers 29:1. Numbers 29, verse 1. And in the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall do no customary work, for it is a day of the blowing of trumpets. Just kind of like the one we got up there on top of the bookcase. That's a shofar, but the principle is served sufficiently. You shall offer a burnt offering as a sweet aroma unto Yahweh, a young bull, a young ram, 7 lambs in their first year, all without blemish. And their grain offering shall be fine flour mixed with 3/10 of an ephah for the bull, and 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, and also 1 kid of the goats as a sin offering to make an atonement for you. And besides the burnt offering with its grain offering for the new moon, the regular burnt offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings, according to the ordinance, as a sweet aroma made by fire unto Yahweh. Now, all these commemorate all these days, and like the one today, has a great commemoration. It's a memorial. We're to remember something. There are things of times past which we are to remember. And there's a great symbolism to be involved in the blowing of all these trumpets. And I'm sure all of us, it has occurred to us to at least one extent or another, but how about of things future, things to come? It's occurred to everybody in here. But let me ask a question. Is there anything right now, even in today's age right now, that we should at least hear at least a little toot, even if it is something like a little child's horn, Because I know none of us here are familiar with the little plastic toy kids' horn, right? That we have had to listen to endlessly as they march around the kitchen, around the living room and the dining room. You know, you're trying to watch TV or a news story, and here comes little Junior, marching across around the living room with tooting his horn, right? Oh, none of us here had to do that, have we? Because in certain cases, these trumpets had to do with celebration, announcements, like announcements of a coming king, and even a warning. Different alarms. Like back in the day, yeah, it's still a little warm in here yet, but I hope that'll change. We got the AC going. Anyway, back in the day, when armies of old would gather and go up and down the field, there was one sound that meant charge, another one to retreat, another one for reveille, get up, another one, taps, to retire. And of course, everybody had one favorite, and it was true or false. There was one for chow time, for supper time. Yeah, nodding the head. Yeah, there were one. Okay, let's eat. That was the one everybody wanted to hear. Let's eat. Now, there's also, again, there are things future concerning this day and this blowing of trumpets. And there's actually also, amongst other things, a lot of false doctrine, false teachings going on around about this day. Now, I know I may have said this before, but how many of us are sick and tired of ever so often big name preachers getting up, and for some reason, it's about this time of year, they all have to get up and talk about this great rapture. Everyone's going to be raptured off. Because isn't it about this time of year, near this time of year, they come out with their books and their new study Bibles and their whatevers, and they got these campaigns going on. I got this here Rapture Ready book you can buy and go along with your Bible. Or I got this Rapture Study Bible. You make yourself worthy to get up and get worthy of the presence of the Lord, they'll say. But what's so funny about so many of these preachers and these churches they attend to, they pastor over? Anybody? Thank you, Cheryl. That's exactly it. They don't keep it. What? Even if they are correct, it has to do with the gathering of the saints. What difference does it make if you don't keep it, right? Even if they, regardless of whatever meaning they attach to it, even if they're right, it makes no difference if you don't keep it. And if you're not keeping it, do you really believe in it? According to it is written, what's the answer? If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you do well, will you not be received? Because this year they're back at it again. These I'm going to call them what they are. They're false prophets. We've heard them before, and we're hearing them again this year. But what's so different about this year and the past couple of recent years? Most of the previous years, it was confined to the Sunday keeping community mostly, right? But now, in recent years, it's crept into the Sabbath keeping communities, all of them. And I don't mean just the ones that just keep the Sabbath only, not the high days. I don't mean the ones that use just the names of Lord God and Jesus, the more traditional names, if you will. Because now it's creeping into congregations just exactly like ours. And it seems to have picked up in some of the Messianic communities, but it's crept over into communities just like ours, in the congregations just like ours. So what's one lesson we're to learn from this? The main lesson is no one is immune from this kind of deception. You have to recognize it when you see it. We think of it in the terms of the parable of the wheat and the parable of the sower, when the reapers go out and tell the master, "Hey, who planted, master, boss? Who planted this darnel in the field? We're going out to gather wheat. We're finding all this darnel out in the field." And the landowner says, "Well, okay, an enemy has done this. Don't pull up the darnel but we'll gather it all together at the harvest, and we'll separate the good from the bad." I'm paraphrasing for the sake of time. And we do have warnings of false prophets as well. And like I said, this teaching, again, I don't know how to emphasize it. It's creeping into the Sabbath keeping communities, even amongst those, not just country boys like me who can't speak Hebrew worth a lick, but it'll even go into those who can out me in speaking Hebrew. What little I do know, what little words and phrases I do know, and trust me, that's not a lot. Now, can we please try Amos 3:7? Because this, in fact, like I said, this year we're going to get something a little bit unusual. It's a warning about false prophets and false doctrines creeping in into the assemblies of Yahweh. And I don't mean that when I say assemblies or churches or congregations of Yahweh. I don't mean that specifically so much, but in a larger general sense. And the bottom line is, no one's immune. We've already covered. Amos. Well, first, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. I'm sorry. The controversy centers around a couple passages. And let's make Amos wait just a moment. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Let us go to Matthew 24. We're going to read a few passages. About the core and center of this controversy going amongst the churches. Matthew 24. I think some of y'all already know where I may be going. 24, verse 36. Oh, no wonder it doesn't look like I'm in 25. Matthew 24:36. I was looking the wrong side of the page. No wonder it didn't look right. But of that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So, it centers around this phrase. That day and hour, nobody knows. What does that mean to us? In context of this controversy I'm speaking of, it's supposed to be a Hebraism for the Day of Trumpets. Anyone ever heard that? I got a few heads nodding. But of the day and the hour no one knows. Let's try Mark 13:32. See what that says. Again, this is in context of Joshua's disciples asking him and answering their question. And let's ask him about his questions about the end of the age. And let's read their question first. Matthew 13, verse 3. Now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter, James, and John and Andrew all asked him privately, "Well, tell us then, when will these things be?" He'd spoken of that at the destruction of the temple. When will these things be, and when will be the sign that these things will be fulfilled? Let's fast forward to remaining in in Mark 13. Let's fast forward to verse 32. He tells them of the great tribulation, the signs of the coming of man, the parable of the fig tree. Verse 32, he says, "But of that day and that hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." That's interesting. Let's try Luke. Let's see what Luke's got to say about this. That day and hour, nobody knows. Luke chapter 12. Verse 40. Joshua speaking of the faithful servant and the evil servant. Luke chapter 12, verse 40. "Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect." It's a little bit different in the answer. Let us try, please. Revelation 3:3. Well, first, before we go there, let's ask and answer a question, if we may. If you have any thought or ideas, go ahead and get your hand up. I'll call on you. Just usual drill. All I ask is that we keep all question and comment on topic. That's all I ask. So how can this be the day and the hour that nobody knows? We read this. We got a partial answer in the Torah. Well, there's a custom and tradition, they keep it for 2, sometimes 3 days. Because of this custom, if you will. Well, Day of Trumpets, well, this is a day, it seems to be the one month, the one new moon that seemingly cannot be reckoned. Did I turn that on wrong, Johann, that air conditioner? Okay, maybe I didn't do it right. Okay. I guess I didn't. Anyway, if this is a day and time and a new moon that we cannot reckon, that these people believe, and these teachers would have us believe, that we got to keep this day for 2, sometimes even 3 days, depending upon who you listen to. Most of them say 2. What's wrong with that idea, that concept? What's the most immediate ramification of that concept? Cheryl. Yahweh never said that. He said it was the day, it's one day. Question. What I'm having a difficult time wrapping my brain around. I know I'm just a country boy, life brought to the city. I'm no educated theologian or anything. I'm not from this or that, some other seminary. I don't come from these cemeteries. I mean seminaries. But, question. Why is it of all the months in a year and all the new moons in a year? Because remember, all of them had specific offerings to be made, right? We read about these offerings and services that would be done by the priest, priestly activities. Why is it we can't, these people would have me believe, we can reckon all the rest of them on time, on right, with precision, but we can't reckon this one. Now, the most direct ramification is what? If we can't reckon the first day of the 7th month, we can't reckon what else? Any other month. And we cannot reckon, how can we reckon the 10th day of atonement, the 10th day of the 7th month? And what day is that? Atonement, Yom Kippur. Tino's going to be talking more about that here in another 10 days from now. Or depending upon if you listen to it, it might be 11 or 12, but I'm kidding. But no, he'll be addressing it in exactly 10 days from now. Dino knows about that. Anyway, let's hold your place. Let's please go back to Torah. We are going to go back to Leviticus. Leviticus 23. What does Leviticus 23 say about the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur? Leviticus 23, verse 26. And Yahweh spoke unto Moses, it says, also on the 10th day of this 7th month shall be the Day of Atonement, and it too shall be a holy convocation unto you. And you shall afflict your souls, that is, you will fast, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And you shall do no work that same day, for it is a day of atonement. And to make an atonement before Yahweh your Elohim. For any person who is not afflicted in soul, who is not afflicted on that same day, shall be cut off from his people. And any person who does any work on that same day, that person I will destroy from amongst his people. We don't work that day. We don't do anything. We don't do any kind of work. And no manner of work. You shall do no manner of work, for it shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and all your households. And it shall be to you a Sabbath of solemn rest. You shall afflict your souls. On the 9th day of the month at evening, from evening to evening, you shall celebrate this Sabbath. Let's try Numbers 29, please. Back to Numbers 29, starting verse 7. Numbers 29, verse 7. On the 7th day of this month, speaking of atonement, on the 10th day of this 7th month, you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall afflict your souls, nor shall you do any work. You shall present a burnt offering unto Yahweh as a sweet aroma. A young bull, 1 young ram, 7 lambs in their first year, and they shall be, and be sure they are without blemish. He goes on about the instructions concerning the grain offering, an offering of the goats. So what happens if we don't keep this day properly? Now, because we can't just celebrate it any time now, can we? Anyone remember what happened to a couple of boys, a couple of priests, sons of Aaron, that didn't do this, that ignored these instructions? Yeah, but I got a couple of, thank you, Daniel, yes. Because the answer of knowing and establishing the correct day and time of trumpets, of the Feast of Atonement, the Day of Atonement, Let's look in Leviticus 10, please. Let's pick it up in verse 1. Then Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took a censer and put fire into it. They put incense in it, and they offered a profane fire before Yahweh, which he had not commanded them. Fire went out from Yahweh and devoured them, and they died before Yahweh. And Moses said unto Aaron, now this is what Yahweh said, saying, by those who come near me I must be regarded as holy, and before all people I must be glorified. So Aaron held his peace. He didn't have anything to say. Moses gives a few further instructions. Let's pick it up in verse 8, please. Following the death of Nadab and Abihu, Moses and Aaron. Also says, and Aaron has a little moment, little Aaron come here moment with Yahweh. Then Yahweh spoke unto Aaron. He's not speaking to Moses. He's speaking to Aaron this time. He's saying that he's paraphrasing. It could be you say, okay, Aaron, let's take this from the top. He says, do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, you nor your sons, when you go into the tabernacle of meeting, lest you die. And it shall be a statute forever, throughout all your generations, that you may distinguish between what is holy and what is unholy, between the clean and the unclean, that you may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which Yahweh has spoken to them by the hand of Moses. So we read of the punishment that were to befall these priests if they did not properly, and priests and people, in both passages of Leviticus, for not properly observing and timing the Day of Atonement. Remember, what did he just say? He said, we don't go in there just any time. He said, you don't go in there just any time. Amongst other things. Any question or comment so far? So if with that big of a direct repercussion or ramification of this so-called day and hour that nobody knows, if this is truly a day and hour that nobody knows, we cannot correctly, we might by guessing, but we cannot fully ascertain and reckon the Day of Atonement, can we? Because priests would be performing all their duties on the wrong day. They would be going to the tabernacle on the wrong day. And look what happened to the sons of Aaron that did just exactly that. Don't go in there just any old time. Priests and, of course, the people everybody was supposed to fast. And no one was supposed to work. So if we're just guessing of what time or day or hour today is, what trumpets is supposed to be, you'll never correctly ascertain the Day of Atonement. Now, where this comes from seems to be rather nebulous. I never could find a direct source. I found lots of preachers, lots of teachers teaching this doctrine. This is the day, the hour that no one comes, but I never could find a source from where it actually came. I was quite unsuccessful in my search. But even if I was to find one, now I'm not saying anyone out here can't do it. I'm just saying I didn't find one. I'll phrase my thought that way. The point is, what's the danger in that? Because now we got all sorts of false eschatology coming out of that. This day and hour that nobody knows. So, can we turn back to Matthew 24, please? Now, because we're going to touch on for just a moment what some of these false teachers would have us believe. Matthew 24, please. Verse 1. Then Joshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple. And Joshua said unto him, Do you not see all these buildings? Do you see all these things? Surely I'll say to you, not one stone will be left upon the other that shall not be thrown down. Now, verse 3, as he sat down on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately and said, Well, tell us then, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? What's his first response? Verse 4, he said, Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I'm the Messiah, and they will deceive many. Now, when they say in verse 9, saying that I am the Messiah, and we will deceive many, did he mean themselves, the teachers themselves, or did he mean that pointing to Yahshua and saying he is? It can go both ways. It can go either way. They can point to, now, people pointing to themselves and saying I'm the Messiah. That's not going to work with a lot of folks, but it'll fool somebody, because it always does, doesn't it? It always does. It's going to trick somebody. But so what they'll do, they'll be talking about Joshua, and they'll be saying, yes, I'm the Messiah. He's a Messiah. And now this teaching has crept into the churches, not just the Sunday church, but it's crept into all the Sabbath, virtually all of, to one extent or another, so many of the Sabbath keeping assemblies, even ones just like us. False teachings like this. Now they too are confused about this gathering of atonement, because some of them I got saved. I don't have the means to show it here, but I got saved on my phone. For reference, I'll say that anybody wants to look at it after services, I'll be glad to pull it up and have you look at it. We got guys using the name Yahshua, Yahweh, Elohim. Of course, every one of them, 2 and 1, will out me in speaking Hebrew terminology. So as this guy does. And he is teaching this idea about not only about the gathering of the saints, how he's taking this day, that hour that no one knows. It's talking about the gathering of the saints. The hour that no one knows. He's saying, going as far, people just like us and congregations like us are now teaching it will happen. It will happen this year, if not today, tomorrow, depending upon which day they actually observe it. This great rapture will happen tomorrow. And between tomorrow and the next day, we're going to see lots of fake, false, phony prophets exposed for the who and what they are. Now, I know all of us, or so many of us, have heard this doctrine before. I can't give orders. I'm not going to pronounce from you that you must reject it. I will advise you to reject it. It can't mean that. First off, because if, in fact, it can't mean what they're saying does. Because first off, and especially when he's talking about this rapture being either today or tomorrow. He will be demonstrated to be a false prophet, because he, in fact, those conveying this teaching are, in fact, whether they realize it or not, they are appointing themselves prophets. All of them, 2 and 1. There are no exceptions. Let's look at Amos 3, verse 7, please. Amos 3, For a little context, I want to pick it up in verse 3. I want to focus on verse 7, but for a little bit of context, I want to pick up in verse 3. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? Starting in Amos 3:3. Will a lion roar in the forest when he has no prey? Will a young lion cry out of his den if he hasn't caught anything? If he has caught nothing? Will a bird fall into a snare on the earth where there is no trap for it? Will a snare spring up from the earth if it has caught nothing at all? If a trumpet is blown in a city, will not the people be afraid? We got people being afraid already over this teaching. And if there is a calamity in the city, will not Yahweh have done it? Verse 7. Surely Yahweh does nothing unless he reveals his secret unto his servants, the people who believe, the people who say, I believe, I believe. No. Unto who? His servants what?
Keep his commandments.
It says the prophets, until his servants who? The prophets. A lion has roared, who will not fear? Yahweh has spoken, who can but prophesy? So, evidently, whether this guy realized or not, and all the other ones, by the way, because for some of these people, it's going to be their second and third rodeo. For some of these, it's not their first rodeo. They're claiming, whether they realize it or not, that Yahweh, or they would have us believe, I'll say it this way, they would have us believe that Yahweh has in fact revealed a secret unto them, when in fact he has not. Now, what does Scripture tell us to do with false prophets? Oh, well, we forgive them, we let them learn from their mistake, we give them another chance, right? What's what we do in this society in this day and age, in so many of the churches? We the people, what do? We forgive them. Maybe we misinterpreted their teaching. Maybe. No, because amongst other things, they're invested in these people in more ways than one. Anybody? What does Yahweh tell us regarding false prophets? We don't listen to these people. Let's try Deuteronomy 13, please. Let's take it from the top. Deuteronomy 13, verse 1. If there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or a wonder comes to pass of which he spoke, saying, let us go after other mighty ones, which you have not known, and let's serve them. You shall not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh, your Elohim, is testing you to know whether or not you love Yahweh with all your heart and all your soul. You mean false prophets are a test? They're a pop quiz for us, folks. My brethren, my sisters. The guys like this guy and others, and many, we can all think of a few names, I think, one name or another. These guys are a test. But you should walk after verse 4, Yahweh your Elohim, and fear him. Keep his commandments, obey his voice, and you shall serve him and hold fast to him. Verse 5, but if that prophet or dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken in order to turn you away from Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to redeem you from the house of bondage, to entice you from the way which Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you to walk, so you shall put this evil away from your midst. We're also instructed Anyone have any question or comment so far? Anybody? Even the little ones, they can ask a question. I'm Uncle Curtis. Little ones, I'm Uncle Curtis. It's okay for the kids to ask a question too.
The rest of the verse there is relevant too, brother.
What's that?
This is verse 6 on chapter 13 there, in Deuteronomy.
All right, let's go read. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your daughter, the wife of your bosom, Deuteronomy 13, keep saying, remaining in Deuteronomy 13, reading verse 6, or your friend who has your own soul, secretly entice you, saying, hey, let's go serve other Elohim. Let's go worship them instead. Which you have not known, or you or your fathers, or the mighty ones of the people which are all around you, near and far off, from one end of the earth to the other, you shall not consent to them or listen to him, nor shall you have any pity on him, nor shall you spare him or conceal him. But you shall surely kill him. Your hand shall be the first against him, and put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. You shall stone him with stones, because he has brought you away to entice you from Yahweh your Elohim, and brought you out the land of Egypt from the house of bondage.
I think Yeshua clears that one up for us, right? I don't think it's our hand that goes to that, right? I don't think we go kill those who aren't following with us. But same thing we were just reading his 10 words this morning, right? And I mean, number one, right off the bat, he's just saying that I brought you out of Egypt, right? Don't put anyone before me. So the idolatry is the same way, right? You're listening to a false teaching. That's the same idolatry.
Right.
He says, put nothing before my face. Right? So, even brothers and sisters, as it says, right? Who might have
This is a grand lesson, amongst other things, on impartiality. Doesn't matter who it is. Of course, in today's day and age, we are not in a position to, drag somebody out in the parking lot and hang him from a tree or chunk stones at him. But we can tell him, don't come around here no more. We can do that. Now that was ancient. That was the time of ancient Israel when they were in the land. They were their own nation. And that was a law of the land. But we can't do that here. We're a scattered people now. But these people are, in fact, drawing away their followers and their listeners away from Yahweh. And we don't ignore such teachers and disregard such teachings. So, any other question or comment thus far? Let's try Isaiah 55, please. Isaiah 55, verses 8 and 9. Because my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are my ways your ways, says Yahweh. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Yahweh has much grander thoughts and ideas than we can imagine. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, ideas they care to share at this time? Okay, because if it can't mean, is this phrase we read of in Matthew 24? So remember, back in Matthew 24, top of the chapter, these people, these false prophets, they would have us believe that Yahweh has in fact shared a secret with them, just like we were told in the verses from Amos, in Amos 3. Whether they realize it or not, they would have us believe that. And that just goes to show how deluded they are, how unsound of mind they really are, doesn't it? How wrapped up they are in their own lies. Now, I didn't write this down, but so what's the answer to this question in Matthew 34? What can this possibly mean? The day and the hour that no one knows. And that we read of in Matthew 24, verse 36. What does this really mean then? But that day and hour nobody knows, not even the angel of heaven. The day and hour nobody knows. But here, we're getting a clue here. Not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Remember, these people would have us believe that part of Yahshua's answer, there's a similar expression given in Acts verse 1, that when Yahshua asked him this question, he would answer with, oh, y'all don't know how to reckon the day of trumpets. That's what these people would have us believe, but no, that's not true at all. No. Could it be that it's something much simpler? So simple it's like being smacked with a carp? And whenever I'm thinking I've heard of this concept called the simplicity of Messiah. It's like Johann said in his last message. Yahshua didn't play word games. Did he? He didn't play these word games. He didn't play games. Neither does Yahweh the Father, because Yahshua spoke only his Father's words. So part of the answer here is in the verse, and we're going to read a few others just like it here. That day and hour, no one, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. And that's the key right there. The answer is really that simple. Only the Father knows. That's exactly what the phrase, even he didn't know. Let's try again. Let's try Luke. Luke 12, please. Can we try Luke 12, verse 4? Because this is key. Therefore, be also ready. It's about the good servant and evil servant. They should be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Let's look at some related scriptures here on the similar response. He's coming at it's that simple. He's coming at a time we don't expect. So, if he's coming at a day and a time and an hour that nobody knows, that only the Father, and it's as plain as what Luke says, at an hour you do not expect, how can he be questioned or slated or scheduled to come today or tomorrow? Because there are a lot of people, including people like congregations, people like us. I get no pleasure from saying that. It saddens me to say that, but it's before our eyes. Because I see this on a weekly basis on my, so many of us see this however often on our social media feeds, and it saddens me. In the spirit of the simplicity of Messiah, it means just exactly that. He's coming at a time that we don't expect. Now, because what's the deceiving element in so many of this? Yes, is it true he's coming on trumpets? Well, Luke just says we don't know when he's coming. Now, does it fit a type? Yes, it fits a type. Now, if you mean that there's all this commemoration of trumpets commemorates and memorializes, amongst other things, his return, I'm all in. In type. You have to remember, it's in type. But Yahshua very plainly says, at a day and time you do not expect. So if you're expecting him, so if we're setting dates and times, the any speaker is automatically wrong. He's not coming when we think. Let's try Acts 1, please, verse 7. Shall we do Acts 1, verse 7? Let's bring this full circle, please. Acts 1. Okay, in this context, the disciples are seeing Yahshua the last time before he ascends. And let's pick it up in verse 4 for a little bit of context. Acts 1, verse 4. And being assembled together with them, he commanded them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait until the promise of the Father, which he said, you have heard from me. John surely baptized with water, but you'll be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now. When they gathered together, they asked him, saying, Master, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? Here we go. They're asking the similar question, right? They're asking pretty much the same question. They're rephrasing the question, but it's pretty much the same question. And he said to them, verse 7, it is not for you to know the times or the season which the Father has put in his own authority. He restated the same answer he had given them already. It's like these guys still didn't get it. And he understood that. He said, it's not for... So if it's not for us to know the times of the season which the Father established in his own authority, if we're not to know the day and the hour and the time the time of his return is to be at a time we don't expect, how can we dare say that he's coming today. He's coming on September the 23rd, 2025. That's the date is specifically is given on the video I referenced to earlier. And he's not saying Lord God and Jesus either. He's saying Yahshua. He's saying Yahweh. And he outs me on the Hebrew terminology he uses. Let's try 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10. I got these listed in order in which I found them. Now, I didn't take the time to put them. I have them down in the order in which I found them. 2 Peter 3, chapter 3, verse 10. I started to say chapter 10, verse 3. It's chapter 3, verse 10. But the day of Yahweh will come as a thief in the night. And the heavens will pass away with a great noise. And the elements will melt with a fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. So essentially, these false prophets have us further believe that, well, the world as we know is going to cease to end tomorrow. Either today or tomorrow. Let's try Revelation 3:3. It's a letter to Sardis. Remember, therefore, how you received and heard. Hold fast and repent. Therefore, if you will not watch, I will come upon you as a thief, and you will not know. You will not know what hour I will come upon you. We've read a couple of times about this coming as a thief. What do thieves do? They come at times that we don't expect, do we? It's like Joshua said in the parable. If he'd known at what hour the thief would have come, he'd stayed awake for him. He'd kept watch, wouldn't he? If I know a thief was coming in my little place at, say, 11:30 at night, I'll be ready for him. As I know any man would want to protect his family. I mean, I know Chris back here, I don't want to pick on you, Chris, but if you knew that a thief was coming into your house at 11:15 tonight, you're going to be ready for him, aren't you? Oh, Kathy's going to help out too. Bring it. Come on. Y'all gonna be waiting for it, aren't you? Y'all gonna be waiting for him. See, everybody with their head screwed on straight and with a sound mind is going to be waiting on this. They're going to be ready for him by one means or another. I'll leave it at that. You're going to be ready for it. You have several options to your means, and I'll let you decide which one's best for you. Thief comes when you're not expecting him. Let's try Revelation 16:15, please. Behold, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who watches, keeps his garments, and walks, lest he walk naked, that they see his shame. So are you keeping we walk, we keep watch. We keep our garments clean, because if we're rolling around in a pigsty of false doctrine, we're not doing that, are we? We're not keeping our garments clean, rolling around in false doctrine. Yes, Cheryl.
So the thief in the night is also a Hebrew idiom.
I've heard, yes.
That refers to the high priest or the captain of the guard.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they were least expecting it, he would make his rounds to make sure everybody was on point to doing what they needed to be doing. And if he found them sleeping, he would take the little fire thing that, on the wall, and light their clothes, and they would run out naked because they were shucking their clothes to get rid of the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeshua is our high priest, and he is our captain of the guard. And so you don't know when the thief is coming. And that's why they called it the thief in the night.
It can go but either way, couldn't it? It can be in that regard. Because if he's coming as a high priest, what is he coming to take away from Satan? His rule, your time. So your time of rulership is over. I'm taking over now. You're done. I'm chunking you in that pit over there. Let's try Luke 17, please. Like I said, I didn't write these in order. I listed them in the order in which I found them. Luke 17, 26 through 30. And as it was in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be when the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, they married. They married wives. They were given in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark and the flood destroyed them all. Likewise, as also was in the days of Lot, they ate and drank and bought and sold, and they planted and they built. But on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even so will it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. And like we read earlier in Amos, Yahweh shared his secret with Lot. He shared his secret with Noah. And I don't know how I did this, but can we try Matthew 24, please, verses 42 and 44. Matthew 24. Let's return to Matthew 24, verse 42 through 44. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your master is coming. Again, yet we got people proclaiming, yeah, he's coming September the 23rd, 2025. You do not know what. We've heard lots of false prophets like that in the past. It's like people just don't learn. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, lest the Son of Man is coming in an hour you do not expect. So we're to watch for the signs. Make ourselves ready accordingly. There is one I found very interesting, Zechariah 14. Can we please turn there? Zechariah 14, verse 7. Actually, I want to back up. Let's start in verse 6. I want to read verse 6 as well. It shall come to Zechariah 14, verses 6 and 7. It shall come to pass in that day that there will be no light, and the lights will diminish. It shall be one day, which is known unto Yahweh. In the words of Joshua, the teachings of Joshua, that means the Father. It is known unto Yahweh, neither day nor night, but at evening time it shall happen, that it will be light. Now what can this possibly mean? And what can this have to do with? Because someone might tell me, see, it means he's not coming during the middle of the day, he's not coming at high noon, he's not coming in the dead of night, but he'll come at the evening, as I've said before. I think a good many of us have heard these false prophets say that. Doesn't mean that at all either. So what can this mean? Think of it like this. What happens when evening starts setting in? Gradually, slowly but surely, it gets darker and darker and darker. Remember, this is hyperbole. This is symbolism here. Could it be that the return of Messiah will come at a time when hope is running out, when it would appear that hope is lost? And then that's when he returns, at that precise time. Because he knows what we can endure, and he knows what we cannot. And he will not push us through anything that we know that he knows we cannot endure. It appears, if we take this verse and add this to the mix, it would seem like it might be at a time where hope is lost. Or at least it appears hope is lost. Because Joshua did ask. He did wonder out loud. Would he find faith on the earth when he returned? Now, I think that's very possible. I think that's quite plausible, actually. Any question or comment? Anyone? No? Okay. Well, if we have no further question or comment. Oh, yes, Carl, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Before you close, I do have a comment.
Go ahead.
Not to take away from your study or anything like that. I take what you say, take heed to it. Just maybe want to offer a different, there's different ways to look at the scriptures, right? There's, Messiah did say that the hour and the day nobody knew, which is, it's like a date, right? So to say, I want to meet with you, Curtis, next month, the day and the hour is not known, but the season is, right? The time frame is. And Yeshua didn't give the believers a time frame as far as the day and the hour, but he did give them a time frame in which
he gave us a time. He gave us signs to watch for.
Absolutely. Yes. And there's a lot of scriptures that have to be reckoned with that he gives to his disciples. And Matthew 16:24, he tells them that some of them that are standing here will not taste death till they see the Son of Man come back. Matthew 24:34, this generation shall not pass till all these things take place. Those things were said not with the day and an hour in mind, because similar to Noah didn't know when the flood was coming, but he knew it was going to be in his generation. As the time approached, then it was revealed to him that it was getting closer and closer.
Mm-hmm.
And you have something similar happen with the disciples, that the Gospels were written around 33 AD, and then the disciples then wrote as time progressed. James speaks of in 5:9, the judge is standing at the door. Paul speaks, says that the time and the hour is at hand. For our salvation now is nearer than then. Hebrews says that he who is coming will not delay now. 1 John 2:18, little children, we are in the last hour. Revelation then tells us to take heed for the prophecy, the time is at hand. In addition, Revelation tells us that he who comes quickly, and contrary to what Daniel says, to seal up the book because the time is further out. John tells us to not seal up the book, for the prophecy is near now. Just wanted to offer that there's different ways to look at it. There's some scriptures to meditate on. Thank you.
Well, in terms of
Zechariah chapter 14.
Oh, and maybe the last one I would say would be
okay.
We all kind of look for these physical things to come, and I'll refer to meditate on Luke 17:20 when he says, Yeshua says that the kingdom comes not with observation. So do not look in the sky, do not like here, let anybody deceive you that you're about to see something, for the kingdom is in your midst.
Right.
Well, yeah, here's a reference. Well, to answer a question about, all right, let's look at Matthew 16. Let's look at the closing verse of Matthew 16. Matthew 16:28. Assuredly I say to you, there are some standing here who shall not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Okay, well, either we got, now if we believe this, there has to be something physical to this, because he will in fact return. The prophets tell him in another place in Zechariah and other places about his return. And it gives great detail about on how he will return, because in Acts 16, in Acts 1, when is this? Okay, I got you, Robert. In Acts 16, in Acts 1, when the disciples are watching him go up into the clouds. Joshua go up into the clouds. And then a man stands in clothes in white and asks them, well, why do you stand there and wonder? Because this Joshua you see will return in the same manner which you see him going up. Zechariah 14 gives us some detail about that. He gives detail about how he will come back and he will return for what we would today call a cavalry charge, on riding horses, and those with him will be riding horses as well. He will return coming on the clouds. That he's going to return the same way. Now what did he mean in Matthew 16? Well, let's go. It's answered right here in Matthew 17. After 6, I'm going to start in Matthew 16, verse 28, and I'm going to keep on through Matthew 17. Surely I say to you, there are some who are standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Matthew 17, verse 1. After 6 days, Joshua took Peter, James, John his brother, and led them up high on a mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as the light. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with them. And Peter answered and said to them, Master, it is good for us to be here. Now, if you wish, let's make three tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. And while he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And suddenly a voice came out of the cloud, saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their faces, and they were greatly afraid. But Joshua came and touched them and said, "Arise, and don't be afraid." And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Joshua only. Now as they came down from the mountain, Joshua commanded them, saying, "Tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man is risen from the dead." Well, now? Here's what he answered their question, but what he meant when they would see the kingdom, that some would answer their question from Matthew 16:28. Says, there are some here. The question there says, "I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in His kingdom." They saw the transfiguration. They didn't see Him in the flesh. They saw Him, Moses, and Elijah, all bright, all dressed in glowing, bright white clothing, the white robes and everything, just like we read in Revelation. They saw it all in a vision. They saw this in a vision. A vision of things yet to come. Now, yes, the kingdom of heaven is here, in fact, amongst the body of believers. But there's still a physical one coming to all the earth, which all men will bow. And because it says every knee will bow. As we sit right now, that hadn't happened yet. Yes, Robert, I know you had something.
Yeah, when you look at this,
Yahshua's speaking to his disciples, and he's speaking of the future things. But when you get down to 28, he says, "Verily I say to you," his disciples he's speaking to right there. But remember, he had many disciples at some time, but there's the 12 chosen. He says, there are some of them, not you, some of them that stand here who shall in no wise taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in His kingdom. Now, is Yahshua speaking of the death that all flesh is appointed, or is he speaking of the death that comes after his return? You see, then they will taste of death. So there are some. So perhaps he's speaking of those that betray him,
and he could be speaking of them as well.
From the faith.
That's
and
right.
So because Yahshua, obviously, to me, I shouldn't say obviously, but it seems to me he's speaking of the second death, and he says, "There are some of them that stand here who shall in no wise taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in His kingdom." Because you go up to the verse up here, 27, "The Son of Man shall come in His glory of His Father with His angels, and they shall render unto every man according to his deeds." That's judgment. So, to me, it's not speaking of the physical death of the flesh, but it seems that he is speaking of those among them who possibly betray him. Because remember, it speaks of not only the great falling away, but people who tasted of who have been partakers of the Spirit of Yahweh and then fell away. There is no more sacrifice and no covering for them. So perhaps that's what he's speaking about.
And it could be that as well. That's
not
actually
physical death, but the second death.
So far, I think both could apply. Thank you. Okay, Daniel.
Well, again, talking about Matthew 16, verse 28. Holland was there, and Simon Peter was there. Who wrote the book of Revelation?
John.
So he saw.
So he saw quite a bit of that. He saw a whole lot of it.
About it as well.
In vision.
In a vision.
Both at the time of Matthew 17 and at the time he wrote Revelation.
We wouldn't have the book of Revelation if he didn't see what he saw.
That's right.
So that could be one way to reconcile it. one way to look at it.
Peter wrote about it too, not as much as John, but he wrote some about it.
Okay, we got a couple minutes left. Okay.
You're just talking about Peter. Did you go there today at 2 Peter 3?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Obviously, a huge verse they use, right? 1,000 years is one day is 1,000 years. Not to be literal to that extent, right? But that's just the opening of what he's saying. You talked about my ways are above your ways, my thoughts are above your thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the exact picture, we're not supposed to, but just to Brother Collis's point, it's accumulated in everything that he's given us, right? The visions that you've seen, the words that he's given to have that perfect expectation. I'm sure you got all the way there, man, I just didn't hear it, but verse 9, Yahweh is not slow in regard to promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards us, not wishing that any should perish, but all should come to repentance. So it's a perfect work, right? To be set apart as I'm set apart. I mean, we don't have perfect knowledge, but we're supposed to have the perfect expectation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all ties together.
Okay, we're about out of time here, but the whole point of this is, I hope it may be. You have my regrets if it doesn't quite fit the way we wanted for a day like today, but it is to blow and sound a warning of false prophecies and false prophets and false teachings, because it is in fact this teaching that we started out with in the introduction is in fact swallowing up people, and I don't just mean the Sunday community either. I mean people I know personally, people I know who used to sit in here. They've been swallowed up by this. Because that false teaching, that false doctrine, well, that will be exposed for what it is tomorrow, when there's no rapture. Because this is, in fact, a day we can reckon. The Feast of Trumpets. We can, in fact. There's still one thing I have never wrapped my head around is why we can't reckon this and we can reckon all the others, but not this one. That just mystifies me. But these people would have us believe that. So we'll depart in peace. We'll have a closing hymn. And Tino, next Sabbath is who? Oh, Tino is up next Sabbath. Okay, well, may Yahweh